Hi, it's time for an antenna video. Not a long one, hopefully a short one. I'm making this for a specific customer who has a problem, and I told him I'd show him how to fix it. So this is a pretty standard NuTone AM/FM dipole antenna that they started using in 1984. On the end of the antenna here, this is the master station end, there's this little rectangular white block connector that has two little holes in the bottom, and these fit down on the pins of the tuner assembly for whichever model you have. They're all the same. That's what connects the antenna lead to the master station. You can see you have two wires here. So what is antenna lead? Well, this is commonly referred to as flat twin lead, and for any of you who've been around before cable TV, this is what people used to have wired in their house, and then you'd have a TV antenna in your attic or on the roof, and that's what the other end would connect to. The customer has a specific problem, which is he has a NuTone, I think it's a 3003, that we repaired recently, and he put it back in and he said it all works really great, but when the installer put the antenna in, he made it way too short. If you open the master station up, like when the guy had to remove it from the wall to send it to me, it's so short that as you fold the master station down, the antenna pulls off, or maybe this way, like that. It just pulls off. And when you have to put it back together, you have to get the thing tilted way up near the wall, almost closed up, and try to reach in there and put this back on, and it's really short, and it makes it really hard. He can't get it plugged in properly. What needs to be done is it needs to be made longer. Now, he's in a two-story house, and the master station is downstairs, and there isn't any way that you can pull a new antenna in a two-story house because it goes up the wall from the kitchen and then through the upstairs floor and then through the upstairs walls and then up into the attic, and that's never going to get repulled because it's too difficult. So the easiest thing to do is to splice on a piece of extra antenna lead to make it longer. And you can see this one, this I just pulled out of the tub at the office this morning. Don't know where it came from, but obviously somewhere along the line someone's done some splicing, and based on what it looks like, it was probably me. Why? I don't know. I don't remember. So let's cut this apart and see what we can do with this. So we're going to cut this one off, and we're going to get rid of this splice because we're going to pretend that's not there. And what the customer is going to have to do is he's going to have to cut this lead that comes out of the wall. He's going to have to cut it off because you're going to splice a piece onto the end and then the other end to make it longer. You don't want to cut it way down here at the bottom. You want to cut it in the middle of whatever length you have, so you have as much to work with as possible. So there's that, and I'm going to actually send him a piece of this, and I'm going to actually send him this piece. This is the piece I'm going to mail to the guy. This much here, that's extra. We don't care about that. I'm going to prepare this for him, so it's a little less that he has to do, but I'm going to show you, because he has to do this end. This is the end at his house, and he has to do the other end of this where he cuts it. The other end he has to do. So I'm going to do half of it, and he's going to do half of it. So let's go ahead and let me show you how I do this. And I'm going to try really hard to do this without getting my big hands in the way. So what do you need to do this with? Well, you need a pair of scissors. You need wire strippers, and this is the kind I prefer, and I'll explain why when we do this. I prefer these specifically for this. You're going to need some kind of little connectors, and when I send him the piece of wire, I'm going to send him some of these. These are little crimp connectors. We call them bean connectors, and I'll show you how those go. And you're going to need a little bit of electrical tape. Doesn't have to be green, could be whatever color you have. So what we have to do is we have to get to the wires inside the cable. So the wire runs on this outside edge and that outside edge, and it's a parallel cable because the wires run side by side. So what we're going to do first is we're going to cut out part of the center section like this. And I have done this, I don't know, 1,000,000 times. Take that piece out. So now what we have are basically like two individual wires separated. Now we're going to strip these back. Now when we strip them back, we want to strip them back about 3/4 of an inch is good. Maybe could be a little more. Don't go crazy and make it like 3 inches because that's just silly. And the reason I like these kind of wire strippers are these are the kind with the little notches in the jaws. So it'll cut through the insulation, the white part, but it won't cut the wires. The wires that are in an antenna cable are little stranded hair-sized wires, and they're very, very small, and they're very, very few. So you don't want to cut any of them. You just want to take off the plastic covering, like this. Just like that. See, it doesn't nick the wires because the little groove in the jaws doesn't let it. Like that. See, not my first rodeo. So there's one end, and this end, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to cut it back. And now I'm going to strip these. Like that. And now the last one we have to do is our pretend end. See, there's the block end, and this is the end that the customer would have cut off the part that comes out of the wall, leaving enough that comes out of the wall to be able to splice onto it, because he has to strip back that too. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this. Get rid of that piece, and we'll strip these back like that. So there's all our ends. These are the two ends that are going to get spliced together here, and this end would be the end that he's going to splice onto the piece that's still coming out of his wall when he's cut off this end already. So all you have to do is you're going to pair them up this way, like this. So they're on top of each other like this. See? Like this. Not this way. This way. Because you'll see why in a second. So you pair them up and make the ends the same length. And then you just simply twist the wires together. Like that. Now, when I do this, I solder these. Because if you solder them, it's a permanent connection, never going to come loose, all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to solder these. I don't know if the customer is going to do that or not, but that's the way I do it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now real quick. And yes, that's what we do when we're out in the field also, in somebody's house, because we have our little propane powered Weller soldering iron. So you just pop that out, heat it up real quick, dab a little solder, and you're good to go. That's as long as that took. Now it's soldered so it won't ever come apart. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take two of our little crimp connectors, or bean connectors as they're referred to, and we're going to slip those down over the spliced wire like that. And we're going to use some wire cutters or a pair of pliers and crimp them closed to cover it up. And these are really popular, and these work really well. Inside, where you can't really see, is a metal sleeve, and inside, and it's like folded over, so it's kind of like a hot dog bun. And inside the hot dog bun are a zillion little jaggedy teeth. So when you crimp it closed, the teeth bite into the wire so it doesn't fall off. So these work really well. I remember when these used to cost like a ½ cent each, and nowadays if you buy good ones like these are like 6 cents. And that's crazy. Okay, so once you've done that, you've got one more thing to do, and that has to do with the electrical tape. So we're going to take a little piece of the electrical tape here. And what I like to do when I use electrical tape is I always cut it with a pair of scissors, because if you stretch it to break it off, to snap it off, then you stretch and you wreck the adhesive and then it doesn't hold as well. And what I like to do with this is I like to take the electrical tape and wrap it around like this. I'm going to wrap it around the connectors. Why do we do that? We do that because if you leave it like this and somebody goes to open up the intercom someday and they're not being careful or watching what they're doing, and they pull it like this really hard, which I'm not going to do because I don't want to wreck it, then you could rip it apart and then you break the connection and then it's all for nothing. If you tape it, at least then you have some sort of safety net that the next guy that comes along isn't going to pull it apart. You know, if you pull hard enough, you can break anything. But just the casual, I didn't know kind of problem, less likely. We'll put another piece on here. Like that. So now it's all taped together. So if you were to pull on it, you have to pull, you still could pull it apart if you pulled really hard, but you're going to have to pull through all the electrical tape and squish it all off or rip it or something to get to the point where the connectors are and all of that. So it's less likely to happen. So that's how you extend a NuTone antenna line to make it long enough so you can fold down your master station when you have to open it up inside the wall. So I'm going to send the customer this piece, and then he's going to follow this video. He's going to make his antenna longer, and that's going to make it easier for him to plug it back in. I hope you found this interesting and perhaps it will be helpful. If it is, please give it a thumbs up. Thumbs up on YouTube, because that helps us just a little bit. There'll be a banner right here that shows you how to subscribe. Go to our YouTube homepage, click on the bell, and when you click on the bell, click on it to receive all notifications, and every time we post a new video, you'll get a notification and you can watch it. That's all for today. See you on the next video.